Yeah, so also in talking about your history with musicians and encounters, there was an encounter or maybe multiple with Miles Davis and
Well, one serious encounter with him, yeah. Yeah, I lived a couple of blocks from him, by the way, in New York City, down on the east side, lower east side. Yeah, and so we had an encounter. It was a violent encounter, in fact, which is very amusing and very typical of Miles Davis. We bumped into each other on Waverly and Broadway in New York, across the street from Sam Weiser's. And we both put our fists up. Go, man, we just crashed into each other. Boom! I saw him. He didn't know me, but I knew him, and we just slowly peeled off. That was my encounter with Miles Davis. Yeah. And since I played with Pharoah and very much on the scene during the time, people who knew Miles and his girlfriends would approach me and say, "Oh, come on up to Miles's place, man. He's open to the players. Come on up, come up with me." And I said, "No, I really don't want to have to go up there and get a lesson on music from Miles Davis." I played with Pharoah, and Pharoah wasn't giving you any lessons or giving you opinions for the most part. We just played, and I think that was part of the gift of playing with Pharoah at that time. He's just playing. He needed somebody to just play with. And it was always musical, spiritual, and open to the deepness of what's happening, and not, social music or, let's say, Hollywood music or commercial music. He wasn't trying to be fusion or rock and roll or whatever else was happening. Just pure. Just honest from the heart, man. It wasn't gimmicky. It wasn't, play this rhythm, get into the bass lines and, funk. No, it had nothing to do with that. Not that that's bad, no, of course. All of that's great and beautiful for some people, but with Pharoah, was it more, at that time, was heart to heart, melodic, deep, and sometimes intensely out. It wasn't too far away from when he was playing with Train. Not too far. Come in?
Sure. And then talking about more commercial music, I know you did spend time with Phil Ramone as well, and he had some things, some comments. One in particular, that he was hearing your music or your melodies, and he said something about hearing you as a violin player, like he thought you were a violinist.
Well, yeah, he had that thought, but he also said that I was the Hendrix Coltrane of the guitar, which I think from him was an amusing compliment, because he heard it all in my playing. Guitar effects, sound, boogie sound, screaming, and blazing chops, right? Which is, where my fun lies, in blazing chops, right? Burning it down, right? Yeah, and melodic is beautiful. Sweetness has its place, but power has its place, right? And if we don't use the power to push back the powers that be out here, then we become victimized by the power. So you got to have some heart power that's pushing the other stuff away, unless you're there to be vulnerable and victimized by the other stuff. I would rather not do that. It isn't not putting anything on anybody, just protecting myself, so to speak, and my people. So I put my shield up. Right? It's not pretty, it's not ugly. It is what it is.